We are the Center for Genomic Gastronomy. Welcome to Patterns That Persist, Biodiversity as the Measure of Healthy Human Food Systems.
What if biodiversity became the main measure of healthy human food systems?
The scenario. In 2033, the buzzword in every part of the food system is biodiversity. Attempts earlier in the 21st century for food systems to be chemical-free or carbon neutral had limited uptake and impact. After the quite radical Maximizing Biodiversity legislation was approved by the European Commission in 2028, the increase in agricultural and wild biodiversity has had a big impact on the food system, with measurable changes and impacts both good and bad.
Meet the journalist. A journalist named Max travels around Europe to write an article. His assignment is to describe how various stakeholders in the food system are adapting to the new EU agricultural rules, which tie payments to demonstrated increases in agricultural and wild biodiversity. From radical fringe groups in remote areas to the largest ag tech corporations, everyone is looking for ways to make kitchens, farms, and rural landscapes more biodiverse. Max is particularly interested in talking to the farmers and citizens that feel left behind by the new focus, and the network of regenerative farmers and food producers who work to heal agricultural landscapes.
Here is a map of Max's journey.
These are the 4 people he will interview, and he will also attend 2 events. First stop on the journey is Portugal, where someone is designing, monitoring tech for food forests. This is Inesh, the food forest technician.
I started out as a certified drone technician, but now I consider myself a pioneer farmer, especially for the coastal landscapes of northern Portugal. In the early 2010s, I was working with satellites, sensors, and drones. At the time, the obvious application for these technologies was in the military, but I soon saw a different opportunity. I had inherited a neglected plot of land, so I began using technology to help me grow and monitor trees, plants, and medicinal herbs. I thought it'd be fun to mix traditional wisdom, modern technology, and community involvement to boost the biodiversity of our local food system. I used drones to take multispectral images in order to assess the health of the landscape. I developed an algorithm for helping with the complex task of timing and coordination when planting and harvesting a food forest. The land is now a thriving food forest where we cultivate crops. I grow 200 species, all adapted to the changing climate conditions of the region. Recently, I built bespoke technologies to measure the ecosystem services the landscape provides. This includes sensors for soil, water, and carbon storage. Now I'm even using an AI-enabled audio ecology monitoring system to track biodiversity. The data these tools collect and process is used to qualify for financial incentives, so I can afford to hire local people to do the delicate harvesting that robots can't achieve.
The journalist's main insight is that Inesh is a pioneer in optimizing emerging technologies for biodiversity and environmental healing. The next stop is the Netherlands, where a teacher who runs a controversial school for resilience resides. This is Katerina, the teacher.
I run an alternative school called the Resilient Century Academy, RCA. It's located in the heart of the most densely populated country and technologically automated food economy in Europe. While students in other schools are learning about prompt engineering and AI management, we have developed a curriculum that maximizes the amount of time that students spend outside in the neighborhood working with their hands and each other. Classes on farming, upcycling, and mending are core to our program. Up until recently, our low-tech and socially minded approach to learning didn't raise any eyebrows in the historically tolerant Dutch education system, but our stated goal of creating a generation of leaders who are radically resilient and know how to survive, even if the complex digital infrastructure and machinery of our lives breaks down, has ignited heated debates about the economy, sustainable farming, education, and the environment in the press. The thing that really got us in trouble was when we refused to serve analog meat and dairy substitutes and automated greenhouse vegetables in our vegetarian student-run cafeteria. Now my school is under attack by parents, politicians, and especially industry lawyers who represent the automated horticulture industry centered around Westland and the alternative meat industry based in Wageningen. Both industries sell internationally, and it doesn't look good when Dutch schools refuse to serve their products.
The journalist's main insight is that Katerina believes that more humans should farm and work with food, but her country is famous for automating everything. The next stop is Germany, where a conference for public plant breeders has a schism. Yesterday, I traveled to Berlin to attend the annual Cultivar Collector Conference, CCC. When I arrived, the door was blocked by protesters holding "No CRISPR in my kitchen" posters. I flashed my journalist pass and snuck in a side door. A colleague at the snack bar waved me over. "Did you hear?" she asked. "The cultivar collector community has split into two camps, and everyone's going crazy." Over the last year, a deep ideological divide had pitted the cultivar fetishist community against itself. On one side, the retainers were zealously preserving heirloom varieties, shunning any form of contemporary genetic engineering, while at the other extreme, the retrainers began embracing cutting-edge technologies like CRISPR, transgenesis, and spray-on gene editing to create new open-source cultivars. Both groups claim to be the protectors of agricultural biodiversity, so I interviewed members of each to better understand their perspectives. The CCC niche group of public plant breeders and seed savers arose as a reaction to corporations and governments who put restrictions on plant breeding and seeds. These restrainers, as CCC members call them, use proprietary corporate licenses, strict regulation, or onerous paperwork to control and privatize biological material. It became clear that whether CCC attendees saw the future as high-tech or low-tech, they could all agree on a botanical future that was free, open, and more biodiverse. The journalist's main insight is that friendly disagreements or competition in the open leads to more and better outcomes than work that is done out of the public view. Next stop is Poland, where a traditional farmer struggles to adapt. This is Alexander, the farmer. "I used to grow baking potatoes and soy for animal feed. Now my potatoes get processed into starch, which is used to make vegan cheese sold in the cities. To be honest, I have never eaten vegan cheese myself, and I am not so sure that I want to. I get annual payments to let my soy fields rewild and become part of a natural habitat corridor. My biggest source of income is spreading basalt on my fields to soak up atmospheric carbon. It is just some minerals that a truck drops off once a week that end up washing into the ocean and have nothing to do with me or my land. I enjoy listening to the songs of the species of birds that are returning each year, but I don't feel like much of a farmer or like I have any freedom to make decisions for myself. My wife doesn't like to see how the changes to our farm have made me less of an independent man, and it sometimes feels like I'm just taking orders from a computer or policymaker very far away. Sometimes it feels like these systems value a single insect or board, a bird more than a human farmer." The journalist's main insight: the more Alexander's farm adapts to new requirements, the less he's sure what he is even farming. Our next stop is Serbia, where a talk show in Belgrade asks about the future of flavor.
Hi, and welcome to this EU-supported talk show about the future of food here in Belgrade, Serbia. First up, we have Gastronomy.
We want to reinvent food as a catalyst for environmental rejuvenation, and you asked us to say 4 words about ourselves. We're biodiverse, exuberant, bioregional, and time-consuming.
Thanks, Gastronomy. Now for proteins, what have you got to say?
We wish the EU would be more supportive. Our automated indoor protein factories are optimized for efficiency and use less land and energy. We're convenient, filling, inexpensive, and fun.
All right, now on to the controversial whole meat nationalism. What have you got to say for yourself?
We want meat-heavy, simple food just like Grandma cooked and Grandpa ate. We're affordable, local, traditional, and pure.
Now, finally, cottage industrial ecology. What do you think about this future food?
Zero waste, infinite flavor. AI supply chains update every 20 minutes, and all outputs are inputs for the next recipe. We're hyper-local, micro-seasonal, we have surge pricing, and we're a bit out of control.
Well, that's it for now. Tune in after the break for the full debate.
After watching the rest of the debate, the journalist's main insight is that food is a playground for new possibilities and hybridities, but also a battleground of polarized identity politics. And our final stop on the journey is Italy, where a philosopher puts her theory into action. This is Elena, the philosopher.
I've never worked as a farmer, but when the European Commission refused to ban the use of glyphosate in agriculture, the herbicide known for being carcinogenic, I really became radicalized. I wanted to grow my own healthy food on my own land, but I knew that if this herbicide was going to be used for another decade, I had to put some space between my land and the farms that used glyphosate. After thinking about this for some time, I wrote an essay called Air-Gapped Agriculture. It describes farms that put distance between themselves and any exposure to chemicals and microplastics from industrial agriculture. So that's what I did. I built a movement in the watershed where I live, where we began air-gapping our land and focusing on the taste of place in this bioregion. Now my goal is working with others in Italy to transition as much arable land as possible towards agroecological systems that are less susceptible to exploitation or extraction. While some air-gapped agriculture practitioners embrace traditional methods, others experiment with AI and environmental DNA analysis to monitor biodiversity. This has led to philosophical divisions within the movement. As a mentor to many members in the movement, I've tried not to take sides on the use of complex technologies for air-gapping agriculture. When I get asked if the term air-gapped refers to plumbing or computing, I always say a little of both. I have no children of my own, but I think about intergenerational wealth transfer. I will pass on to future generations the rich patterns of organisms, environments, and communities that I cared for and that nourished me during my life on Earth. These are the patterns that persist.
The journalist's main insight is that she believes that the way we grow and eat today creates patterns which will resonate for at least 100 years.
And that's it for our presentation. Thanks for listening.